Good morning, my Facebook friends. I'm glad that you could join us today. And I just pray the Lord's blessings on you today, that as you go along, that God will use you and He will bless you. Thank you. We cannot know all the answers to life's questions. We cannot always understand just why the Lord allows certain trials to be sent us, but we'll understand it better by and by, for we know that all things work together for good to them who know the Lord, even though sometimes the storm clouds gather, we can smile through tears, knowing all things work for good. The Lord knows best how much rain must fall on every man, so we can grow to become what He'd have us be. When trials come that we don't seem to understand, we can trust in God, though the way's too dark to see. For we know that all things work together for good to them who know the Lord, even though sometimes the storm clouds gather, we can smile through tears, knowing all things work for good. For we know that all things work together for good to them who know the Lord, even though sometimes the storm clouds gather, we can smile through tears, knowing all things work for good. Don't you just love that verse? All things work together for good to those who love the Lord and are called according to His purpose. Well, we are living in a day of uncertainties and in a day of, for some of us, sorrow, grief, affliction, trouble, and for many of us, triumph and gladness and joy. And we all try, it seems, to encourage each other to press on, to take a stand for the Lord. And that's what we're supposed to do as a body of Christ. We are supposed to encourage each other. But I find that not only are Christians today encouraging each other, but they're encouraging those that don't know the Lord. And I just think that it's wonderful that the body of Christ has stepped up to encourage each other. I want us to look today in the book of Luke, chapter 22, verses 45 and 46. And this is where that Jesus has gone up on the mountain to pray, to the garden to pray, and has asked the disciples to watch and pray while that he is praying. And he prays for a while, and then he comes back to them and finds that they are sleeping. And the Bible said that they were sleeping for sorrow. They were sleeping because of their pain, their sorrow, their affliction, and even their sadness. And Jesus said to them, "Get up and pray that you do not give in to temptation." So prayer is a street between us and God, if I could put it that way, that we go to him and he replies to us. But if we look at their lives, the events of the past evening had been pretty strenuous on them. They had been to what we now call the Last Supper, and Jesus had been talking to them about what would happen to him. Now you have to realize they've left their occupation, they've left most everything behind to follow Jesus Christ. And here he is telling them that now it has come time for him to leave. He said that he would be denied by one of them. Now think about how this affects them mentally and physically. He tells them that one of them will actually betray him, that he will be beaten and he will suffer. The time has come. He has told them about it, but now the time is here, and this is actually going to be a reality. He will be crucified and die. But the good news is, I will rise again. But I am going to leave you, and I'm going to go back to the Father. But when I get to the Father, I will pray to the Father, and he will send you another comforter like me who will never leave you. He will never have a meeting like this that he is going to leave you. But I have to go. I have to be crucified and give my life for the sin of the world if I am going to redeem sinners. So for them, this was draining to their mind and to their flesh, this coming sorrow that was about upon them. Then they leave there and they walk through the city and go to the garden, and Jesus is going there to pray, and he wants them to watch and pray. Now they are tired physically, but it seems a heavy sleep that has come upon them because of sorrow. And in spite of the Lord's demand or need for them to watch and pray, he finds them several times asleep in the garden because of their sorrow. Many times in their work-filled lives, fishermen like Peter and John had toiled all night with their nets. But on this night of sorrow, they slept. There was something different about this night. I'm wanting to ask you, what are you doing during this time of sadness and grief and sorrow and unrest? What are you doing? I'm not asking you what is the church doing. I'm not asking you what is the pastor doing. I am asking you, what are you doing? Now, as I just referenced, as long as they were out fishing, they were moving and they could stay awake all night. At one instance, one of the disciples said, "We have toiled all night and caught nothing." And yet they had spent the night, no doubt, without prayer. What was different about this night? It was a mentally disturbing night. It was a night of sorrow and anguish and sadness. So I'm asking you, what are you doing during this time? I know that many of us have cleaned our yards. Many of us have cleaned our house extensively. Many of us have read books. Many of us have been able to accomplish a lot of things that we were not able to accomplish because of our workload or our family or our children or our schedule. And many of us during this time have gone away with God privately and sought his face, prayed to him diligently. I want to look at this one example. What did Paul and Silas do? They praised. They were in jail, literally, physically. They were in a jail. And here they were, and instead of talking each other down, instead of being sad and sorrowful, the Bible said they began to sing praises to God. You see, and as they began to sing, God opened the jailhouse doors. God opened it up for them to be able to come out. But there were others there in that jail that because of their singing and their praying and their praising God, that when these jail cells were opened, that they were also, in a way, set free. Not that they left, but they saw the power of God. They saw what God could do. And the jailer and his family were actually converted to Christ. So if you will take time with God, you see Paul and Silas could not loose themselves from that jail. They could not open their chains and their bonds. They could not unshackle themselves. They could not open the door, but they could talk to God. So I am encouraging you today, talk to God, because God can get beyond the jail cell. Maybe you have someone that during this time it's been very sorrowful for you because they were incarcerated. You couldn't visit them. You couldn't help them seemingly in the way that you had before. But I'm telling you that God tells us in His Word that He can go beyond that jail cell. That He can get in beyond those bars that are closed and those places that we cannot get into. But we have to take the time to pray. And it is our prayer that helps not only ourselves to resist temptation and an internal work within us, but it is our prayers that help other people. Maybe people that don't even know how to pray. I remember one time hearing a man of God speak to another lady in the church, and he told her, you, talking about God, you talk to God, and God will talk to them in the midnight hour when everything is still and everything is quiet. So I'm encouraging you today to pray.